I want to welcome everybody to whatever the hell we're going to call this show. And the title of our first episode is going to be, Did He Say What I Think He Said? Do you remember this guy? That's Zbigniew Brzezinski, the former National Security Advisor during the Carter administration. Brzezinski dropped a bombshell recently during his testimony to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Now, Brzezinski was speaking to the senators about what he called, quote, the calamity of the, quote, U.S. war of choice in Iraq. Here's what he said. If the United States continues to be bogged down in a protracted bloody involvement
in Iraq, and I emphasize what I'm about to say, the final destination on this downhill track is likely to be a head-on conflict with Iran and with much of the world of Islam at large. A plausible scenario for a military collision with Iran involves Iraqi failure to meet the benchmarks, followed by accusations of Iranian responsibility for the failure, then by some provocation in Iraq or a terrorist act in the United States blamed on Iran, culminating in a quote-unquote defensive U.S. military action against Iran that plunges a lonely America into a spreading and deepening quagmire, eventually ranging across Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan.
Was Brzezinski saying he believed the U.S. could allow or even engineer a terrorist attack on its own soil and then blame it on Iran as a pretext for attacking Iran? His comments certainly seemed to leave the possibility open. Now, Brzezinski reiterated his concern about the possibility of a provocation like this in his replies to questions from the senators afterward. None of them, however, addressed the specifics of what he had suggested. Luckily, though, someone else did. But it wasn't one of the senators. It wasn't anybody from the corporate media. It was World Socialist website reporter Barry Gray. He put the burning question to Brzezinski. Gray said, Dr. Brzezinski, who do you think would be carrying out this possible provocation? Brzezinski replied, I have no idea. As I said, these things can never be predicted. It can be spontaneous. So then Gray asked, are you suggesting there is a possibility that the provocation could originate within the U.S. government itself? Brzezinski replied, I'm saying the whole situation can get out of hand, and all sorts of calculations can produce a circumstance that would be very difficult to trace. We're grateful for Mr. Gray doing his job. Well, after comments like that, as you might imagine, Brzezinski's comments were front page news the next morning in every major U.S. newspaper. Except they weren't. In fact, not a single national news program or major newspaper carried Brzezinski's exchange with Gray. And not a single national newspaper carried an account of Brzezinski's testimony that conveyed to its readers just what Brzezinski was hinting at. But why not? Now, it's not like the corporate press didn't know about Brzezinski's testimony. The Associated Press ran a story on his comments, and their story was picked up by the Washington Post's website. But look at the shit that the Post tried to pull. In this story, the reference to a terrorist attack within the U.S. is removed. And also removed are the quotation marks around the word defensive, which appear in Brzezinski's own text. That's not some innocent pair of mistakes. That's an intentional inversion of meaning. If you want to see the entire set of alterations that the Washington Post made to the story, you can click on the website that's linked below. And if you think what we're doing here is valuable, please tell someone else about it. Thanks. Yeah? Good?
Very well. I'd like you walking.
It's well documented that we have, for quite a long time now, known where the real problem is in the Middle East. And in fact, the president adequately described it as the axis of evil. I guess my question is, how many times do we have to prove that these people are blowing up people Now, never mind if they get a nuclear weapon, when do we send them an airmail message to Tehran?
That old Beach Boys song, Bomberan? Bomb, 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 bomb. Anyway,